Hi guys, Darth Deuce here with another Star Wars The Black Series 6-inch action figure review. It is feeling good to be doing some Black Series reviews again. I've been missing them. Been missing Black Series, honestly. I've been collecting a lot of Marvel Legends lately because Marvel Legends has had a lot of stuff coming out lately and Black Series hasn't. But I've played catch up. I just previously reviewed DJ, and now I'm going to review this one, which I didn't pick up before, which is the Tusken Raider. This guy got two releases. He got this standard release, I think, after, and then the first release. Actually, I can't remember which way it went. But he got a standard release in the red and black box, and he also got a 40th anniversary carded release. Was definitely one of the more popular figures from the wave he came in when he was part of this wave, and also in the 40th anniversary. I don't know if I ever saw the carded version from the 40th anniversary. I did see him in this package a couple times, but I ended up passing on him in favor of other figures. But I was able to pick him up on Amazon for less than retail, and I thought I had to finally snag him up because I've heard a lot of people say this is a really good one. So anyways, here he is in the packaging. You just got your standard Black Series packaging, figure inside, cool image of the Tusken Raider. Number 41, another image of the Tusken Raider, and then actually somewhat lengthy bio, which says, fearsome desert savages inhabiting the rocky Jundland wastes, Tusken Raiders are the foremost reason Tatooine colonists do not wander far from their isolated communities. Extremely territorial, Tusken Raiders will attack with very little provocation. So, pretty cool. This is always an iconic design from our iconic character from the first movie. So, I'm going to get him cracked open and we'll take a closer look. Alright, I got the Tusken Raider out of the packaging. This is a really cool figure. It's really one of the better looking Black Series figures where it seems like they took a lot of care and effort into this figure for the most part. So moving right in with the sculpt and paint and all that, we got the head sculpt here, the mask sculpt if you prefer. It wants to focus in more, and it's really good. You've got the eye goggles here, which are painted in silver, and the little things here, which are painted in silver, looks really good. And the mouthpiece looks really good as well. The wrappings around the head also are sculpted really nicely and given a black wash to bring out those details, which looks really, really good. I've always loved the design of the Tusken Raiders. I think they look really cool, pretty intimidating. You got like the breath thing or the moisture thing, I can't really remember what that is, around the neck here. It is like glued on there or something, like secured on there, and then the robe is actually underneath it. So if you wanted to get the robe off, it'd be a bit more of a chore because you'd have to actually heat this up and like kind of rip it off. I'm not gonna do that, but yeah. And before we get on this, as you can see, he does utilize a soft goods outer robe. Which is pretty good. It's nice and rough and tattered, which definitely is appropriate for the character. They're supposed to be out wandering the wastes, the deserts, and not supposed to have nice looking clothes. The robe really helps to convey that. I don't know if they did it for the 40th anniversary one, but for this release, when he's in the packaging, they actually bunched up the cloak into his inner robe, so at the edges the robe's a little bunched up. I'm sure it'll settle in time, and if you really wanted to fix it, you could like heat it up or iron it out or whatever. I don't have an iron and I don't want to do that, so I'm just gonna let it sort of settle on its own, but still looks pretty good. The only real gripe I have with this is that they've intentionally frayed it on the edges, which looks good, but like, there's been so many little strings and everything that's just come off this figure in the few minutes that I've had it out of the packaging, which is not really a super huge flaw. It's just kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Underneath here, you do have the bandoliers here, which have some nice gold paint on there, and the pouches and whatnot. You get the pouches on the belt, look really good. And again, it has some black wash to make it look more realistic. Not really much going on in the back, but they did actually paint the buckles on the back, even though you're probably not going to see it, so that's really cool. The sculpt of the robe itself looks good. The lower robe's pretty cool. I kind of wish this was soft goods as well, but not a huge deal. It is cut on the sides to allow for articulation. It's decently pliable. Underneath you just have some pants, and you got some really nicely sculpted wraps for their feet, as well as having a nice dark wash over it to, again, bring out the details. Look really, really good. On here you just have some gloves, which does have a sculpted trigger finger, which is nice. And again, you have underneath the robes, the wraps here look really good. The robe itself as well, the sleeves, as you hold it up, the sleeves are actually stitched onto the full robe, so the sleeves aren't separate from the body of the robe, if you know what I'm talking about. So I think that's kind of cool. It's a different sort of robe, that's for sure. Overall, it's a really good looking figure. I think it's, in terms of Hasbro's Black Series line, it's one of their best looking ones in terms of sculpt and paint. They really put a lot of effort into that, and it shows. And it really gives the impression of a pretty quality figure. In terms of articulation, he's not bad. He is a little more restricted than maybe I'd like, but it's not a huge deal. Doesn't have a ball joint with a hinge at the neck. You can get the head looking up a bit, barely make it look down because of the thing here. You get the rotation. Don't really get, you get a little bit of pivot, not too much. Ball hinges at the shoulders move pretty good. Rotation. Single hinges at the elbows, which only bends 90 degrees, which is sort of unfortunate, but not a huge deal. Ball hinges at the wrist, which is good, except for on this hand, I really wish it went in and out for one of his accessories, which I'll show, but it goes out and in. I really wish it went up and down. Again, I'll show that off. It does have a ball joint underneath the belt at the torso, so you can get some torso articulation. He does move back a bit, and he moves forward a bit, but it's pretty tight, and there's not a whole lot of movement you're getting out of that. He has ball hinges at the hips, and you kick it out, and the forward skirt does move out of the way a bit, but it does look sort of bad. Doesn't look very natural. He does have a pretty damn good spread, though. Swivel cuts at the thighs, double hinges at the knees, which are going to be hindered a bit by this, and then hinges at the angles of the rocker joints. So he has pretty good articulation for the most part. There are some places that are hindered, but you should be able to get most of the poses you'll want to get out of this guy. I'm going to say about 8 out of 10 people are just going to have them with the gaffy stick in the sort of classic pose, but yeah, so moving on to accessories, comes with quite a few accessories. I guess first off, it does come with his cycler rifle, which is really cool. It's really nicely sculpted and nicely painted. Sculpt's really good. It has a nice sculpt to simulate wood. Nice silver paint apps as well as black paint apps and some gunmetal paint apps. Really well painted weapon. You can hold it. Getting it into his hand here. Getting into his hand properly at any rate is a little bit of a struggle. Oh, I got it the wrong way. Come on. So there you can get him holding the gun, and that looks really cool. My only problem is the fact that because this hand does not hinge up and down, you cannot get him into an aiming pose with this gun. It is impossible to get him properly in an aiming pose with the gun, which is really unfortunate. What you can do is you can kind of do something like this if you want to. It doesn't look completely right, but it doesn't look terrible either. I can't really do it very well right now, but if you can get him holding it, you can get him holding it like this. If you just put his trigger finger in through the trigger guard and then have him supporting the gun with his other hand, you can get him in sort of a better aiming pose, and it doesn't look too bad, as you can see, but it is what it is. It's still a really good accessory. I just kind of wish the hand articulation would have allowed for better posing with it. And then he comes with the bottom part of the gaffy stick or Gatterfee, which is in a nice sort of just brown color, but nicely sculpted. And he comes with 3 separate versions of the Gatterfee to put in the end. So that's really cool. You get like the standard one, which is kind of like the most common one you see in the movie. You get this one that has a little bit more hollow. And you get this one, which looks more like a mace, which is really cool. It's pretty good just for different options, but also if you wanted to army build them, you didn't want them to all look exactly the same, you can switch up their Gatterfees, so I think that's really cool. But they just plug into the ends really easily, and you got the full Gatterfee here, which looks really cool. And I'll get it into his hands real quick. And then here you go, I have him holding the Gatterfee with one of the ends on it, and you can get him into the sort of iconic pose pretty easily, which is always great. That looks really awesome. Definitely like the look of that. Really impressive looking figure. Now, moving on to some quick size comparisons. If he wants to stand. Just for a more average scale 6-inch figure, here's the recent, or somewhat more recent, Black Series Rex. And Rex is about the same size, 6-inch, so that's pretty good. And then here is the bit more of appropriate size figures, and here is with the Farm Boy Luke figure. And Luke is just slightly smaller, which makes sense. Luke was a bit shorter, a bit younger, obviously, in the first movie, so it makes sense there's the Tusken would be a bit bigger, so I think it looks really cool. Overall, I think this is a great figure for the Black Series 6-inch collection. If you're collecting Black Series, you're probably into the original trilogy figures, so I would highly recommend picking this one up. So far, I got mine on Amazon.ca, the Canadian Amazon. I don't know what it is like on the United States one, but it's a bit under retail on the Canadian Amazon, and 100% would recommend picking it up for that price. Definitely worth it for the quality, accessories, and everything. Just such a great figure. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Let me know anything down in the comments below, and may the Force be with you.